Welcome to the Outdoor Pursuit. If you're struggling catching fish or you're new to bass fishing and you're wondering where to start in your fishing journey, look no further than the Texas Rig. We're going to talk about the setup all the way to how to fish it and everything in between, so stick around. Quick disclaimer, folks, I think I'm coming down with a cold. I've got some scratchy throat, chest congestion, the whole shebang, but I've got my tea and honey, so we'll get through this. All right, so the Texas Rig. In my opinion, I think it's the most versatile bait out there. Hands down, number one bait as far as versatility. Why? Well, you can fish it 12 months out of the year. You can fish it in clear water. You can fish it in dirty water. You can fish it in current. You can fish it in ponds with no current. You can fish it in clear skies, cloudy skies, pretty much anywhere you want to, anytime you want to, and it produces. Now, there is a negative stigma about fishing plastics or fishing the Texas Rig. For some reason, people think that if you fish a plastic, if you fish a Texas Rig, in this case, that you're less of a fisherman, that you're not an expert in fishing, like fishing crankbaits or chatterbaits or spinnerbaits, anything like that makes you more of a fisherman. I think that's absolute nonsense because there's not a pro out there that doesn't have a Texas Rig on their boat and fishing it at every tournament. I guarantee you that. If you don't believe me, go to all their YouTube channels and see what they have rigged on in their boats. And that's my rant. Let's get started. Just a quick interruption, guys. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys listening in and subscribing to my channel. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and hit the like button. That's going to help me. I just recently retired, so I am broke and I need money. Not really, but yeah. But you know, all this stuff costs money. All my camera gear, all my video equipment just costs money. I'm just trying to cover those costs, but it doesn't matter. Even if I didn't get a single dime from all this, you know, I would still do it because I like sharing information with you guys. But thanks a lot. So the Texas Rig is made up of three basic components. You've got a hook, you've got a weight, and you've got a plastic or your bait. Let's go ahead and start with the hook. Hooks. There's basically two hooks I want to talk about. There's probably more than that, but for this video, we're going to talk about the EWG or the extra wide gap hook, or you can go with the offset straight shank or offset round hook like this one right here. Both are good hooks, both work well. I've used them both. They're very effective. You got a good hookup ratio on them. They work fine. Probably the most common one is the EWG hook. Just like this one here, it's got an offset end here where the tying in. It's got a belly and it's got the hook end. Very popular, relatively inexpensive. These come in a couple of wire gauges. One is a super line that's used for punching, that's used to penetrate matted vegetation, but the standard size, the standard gauge works just fine. Two sizes you should worry about when you go out and buy them. This is a 3/0. You can get a 4/0, which is a little bit bigger. However, either size works fine. If you're starting off, go ahead and get the 3/0. It'll work just fine. Now, when you go out and you buy hooks, they are identified as a 3/0, which has a numerical number, a 3, a slash, and an O next to it. I've got one right here. See, it's got a 3. You probably can't see it, but it's got a 3, a slash, and an O. The reason why I mention this is because if you go out there and you get a number 3 hook, it's a tiny little hook, and that's no bueno for the Texas Rig. You want to make sure that you get the 3/0, not the number 3 hook. The 3/0 is a much bigger hook, and it's perfect for the Texas Rig. So I don't want you to go out to the store and say, hey, you know, you pick up a number 3 hook and it's a tiny hook. It's not going to work with your rig. And you think, oh man, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And then you're going to unsubscribe and I'm done. So get the 3/0, 3/0 or 4/0, which is the 4/0. Now, the second component of the Texas Rig is the weight, or the bullet weight or the worm weight. Now, these come in different sizes. They come either from ounce, ounce and a half, all the way down to perhaps a 1/16 ounce I don't know if you can see it, like this one right here. Now, they come in two different materials also. They come in lead and then they come in a tungsten. Now, leads are less dense than tungsten, so they're a little bit bigger for the size. Theoretically, people say that if you use tungsten, you can feel the bottom better. They have better response to you dragging it at the bottom. And we'll talk about the fishing technique later in the video. But either one works fine. I use tungsten because it's a much smaller weight and they're a little bit more expensive than the lead weight, but either one works fine. Now, what I recommend is you want to fish the lightest weight you can in your water, right? So if you have heavy current, you might want to go with a heavier weight. If you're fishing no current or you're fishing shallows, you might want to go down to a lighter weight. Now, what do I mean by light? I mean, I typically fish a 1/8 ounce to a 3/16 ounce. I don't want to go anything heavier than that because it'll affect the reaction of the bait as it goes down into the water, right? It's going to look a little weird. It's if you use a 1 ounce weight and you're not fishing vegetation or matted vegetation, that weight's going to sink straight down and the fish is not going to get a good look at it, because typically, a lot of times, the fish will react to it as it's dropping down the water column. So stick to the lightest weight you can fish in the waters that you are fishing. The third component of the Texas rig is the bait, or the plastic. Now, there are a gazillion of these things out there, anywhere from something that's called a stick bait, a good beginner bait, to a worm that's got a straight worm like this one that's got a bulbous tail. That's funny. You've got these creature baits. This is a Zoom brush hog, which does not resemble a hog and certainly doesn't resemble a hog in a brush, but that's what it's called, a brush hog. You've got creature things that look like bugs with tentacles and claws and just all sorts of colors out there. So I like to fish stick baits like this one right here. This is a Yumdinger stick bait. I don't know what it represents in the water. I don't know if it's a leech. I don't know if it's a worm. I don't even know if you have worms in the water. You have snakes. I've seen snakes out there. But I don't know what it represents, but it catches fish. Stick baits come in different packages, varieties, colors, and you can narrow it down to basically two colors. One is a green pumpkin or green pumpkin black flake or green pumpkin red flake, anything of that nature, as long as it's green pumpkin, and that's really good if your water is clear, if there is good visibility. But you can fish in dark waters or dirty waters, it'll be just fine. But if you're fishing a very dirty water or muddy water, then you want to go with a black and blue, a June bug, anything like that that's got a dark tint to it, like this one right here. This is another Yumdinger, I think, or something. And this is a black and blue with a blue tail on it. These stand out better because of the shadow that it projects or the darkness of it in very dirty water. But that's a good bait to start. Now you can also add some sort of creature bait, anything with claws, something like this right here. You can switch from back and forth, but try to keep the colors between the green pumpkin black flake or green pumpkin red flake or whatever flake you want in it, or a black and blue. Both those colors are pretty standard 12 months out of the year. So let's go ahead and rig one. So we're basically going to take our line. So I'm using a fluorocarbon line. I'll go ahead and talk about the lines and the gear that you're going to use with your Texas rig towards the end of the video. So stay tuned, don't get impatient with me, but let's go ahead and tie one up here. So you want to take your weight, your bullet weight, and you want to insert the tapered end first. Now you've got your weight in there, and then you want to tie your hook as so. You can use any fishing knot you like. For this example, I'm going to just do a quick uni knot. One thing for you guys that are just starting off, learn how to tie knots, fishing knots. There's a Palomar knot, there's a uni knot. Those are two very simple knots. There's 1,000 videos out there that you can take a look at, and it'll just take you a couple of minutes to learn it and so forth. Wet your knot, tie it in, cut the tag in. You've got your weight and your hook just like this. The weight is free flowing through the line, and then you've got your hook end over here. So let's go ahead and hook this on. Now this is very important right here. Now you want to get your hook, if you're right-handed, get it on the right hand. Get your worm. You want to stick it at the very top of it, right through the center. And you want to go to about where the hook starts bending, right? So you want to get it to that point. Then you stick it out of the worm. In this case, a worm, but you can, that's the same method if you're doing a creature bait. Take it all the way to the top, all the way to the offset part right here. And you want to bring it to the top right where the tie-in is. Turn it around. Now here is the pro tip. So you want to make sure that the worm is straight on the, what is it, the x-axis of this hook, right? So you want to make sure it's straight. So you want to measure, or you want to line up the hook next to the worm like this. And where it's going to penetrate the worm, that's where you want to kind of bring in the tip of the hook and kind of penetrate the worm. So it's going to bend a little bit, but no problem. It's going to strain out once you penetrate the hook. So you take the hook, it goes through, and there you have it. It's pretty straight. Here's the secret sauce. You want to make sure that you skin hook the worm. Just barely skin hook it right there so that the worm is weedless, right? That's what makes this bait so special, is that it's weedless. Remember versatility? This thing doesn't get snagged like crankbaits or any other bait that is out there. It's pretty much weedless. You can throw it in vegetation, you can throw it in rocks, stones, you know, whatever laydowns are out there, and it's not going to get stuck. Now, is it going to get snagged every once in a while? Yeah, but it doesn't get snagged like all the other baits. So this is so perfect right there. There's no hook, there's nothing. It's make sure you skin hook it there straight, and there it is. This is your Texas rig, how you set it up. You got your weight at the end. Boom, right there. This is fish candy, guys. Fish candy. This will guarantee will catch fish. All right, let's talk about where you can fish this. Now, I said this is the most versatile bait there is in all of bass fishing, and I'm going to stick to that. But it really shines where there's vegetation or there's structure or laydowns or anything like that that might snag your crankbait or might snag your chatterbait or spinner baits, and those are expensive baits, right? Why? Because it's weedless. If you have weed lines, you want to throw it along that weed line. If you have laydowns, you want to throw it along that. It'll go right over it. It's the 4x4 of baits, and it works extremely good post spawn. You can target fish with it. You can sight fish with it. Works extremely well. The Texas rig is a bottom contact bait. What does that mean? It means that you want to crawl this bait at the bottom of your waters, right? So if you have a rock bottom or gravel bottom or sandy bottom or weeds at the bottom, you want to slowly drag this bait. You know, you want a very slow presentation. So you have to be a little bit patient, right? So when you cast it, you can cast it overhand. Hey, how do you like my little prop here, right? This is, before you get all excited, I didn't cut a good rod. This is a broken rod that my brother gave me that he broke, and I'm using it as my prop, which works great because I can't swing my big rod around here. I'll start knocking stuff down. But anyways, so you can cast it overhand, you can side cast it, you can pitch it out there. It doesn't matter. The important part of fishing this technique is the retrieve. This is a retrieve that you want to do slow. You don't want to speed crank it back to you. This is a slow, methodical retrieve. So what you do is you cast it out, let it drop to the bottom. Make sure it hits the bottom. You don't want to raise your tip. You don't want to do that because it's going to drag your bait as it's going down in a diagonal line, right? And you want it to sink straight down. Let the worm work as it's going down. So you want to make sure that once you cast it out, let it drop to the bottom. And how do you know it's hit bottom? Well, the line itself will stop stretching, will bow, and you'll see a big old bow. At that point, you've hit bottom. You want to reel in the slack. Make sure the slack is tight. Now, you may get a bite right away. You may get a bite as it's going down. But if you don't, the retrieve is like this. Once you reel in the slack, all you want to do is lift your rod tip. And what that does, that is moving the bait at the bottom. As you move the rod tip back, the bait is moving at the bottom. Now, once you do that, you want to move your rod tip down and reel in the slack. And repeat, move the tip up, wait a second, wait a couple of seconds, reel in the slack. Move the tip up, wait a few seconds. Now, if it is tough, if the conditions are tough and the fish aren't biting, be patient. Before you reel in the slack, move the tip up, wait 5 seconds, wait 10 seconds. The fish are looking at that bait and they're waiting for something. That's all you do. Now, you can intermittently give it a few shakes if you want to, pop it up. If you feel it snag somewhere, this is a great tip, guys. If you feel your bait as you're lifting the tip, if you feel it snag on a rock or something, give it a quick burst, a quick twitch. That'll jump your bait off, and that's when the fish react to it as well. Especially if it's going through a weed line or you're going through weeds or vegetation and it gets stuck a little bit, just give it a quick pop and the bait will come out and the fish will react to it right away. That's what happens. Excuse me. You can fish this technique on a spinning rod or a bait caster. Most fishermen, most anglers fish it with a bait caster, but if you're not comfortable with a bait caster, go ahead and use a spinning rod. It's just as good as your bait caster. Use that, practice with a bait caster, get better, and then convert it over to a bait caster. You want to fish it either in a medium heavy or a heavy. And the reason why I say that is that once you get that bite, you cast out, raise a rod tip, reel in the slack. When you feel that bite, it could be a thump or it could be a slight movement of your line. You never know, especially in winter, like right now. You don't feel the bites. You just see your line move because they already have the bait, and then that's when you set the hook. Now, the hook set is what I call a violent hook set, as opposed to a lean with like a crankbait. It's just lean on it. This is more of a violent hook set because you do have a heavier gauge hook and you've got it skin hooked. And so you want that hook end to penetrate both your bait and also the fish's mouth, right? So it is what I call a violent hook set, right? So you want to, once you feel that bite, you want to reel down. You want to give it at least 3 seconds. You don't want to prematurely, if you feel that bite, you don't want to set the hook right away because you're going to take the hook out of its mouth. It's going to happen to you. It happens to a lot of people. So what you do is when you feel that bite, reel in the slack and then you bring it home. Then you go ahead and set that hook and you set it, you power set it, right? Bring it back and set it. As far as the reel, we talked about that you can use a spinning reel or a bait caster. Most guys use a bait caster before everybody just crucifies me in the comments. But the truth is you can use either one. Bait caster, bait casters have speeds or gear ratios. Stick to something that's 7-to-1 or 8-to-1 because you're going to reel that thing. As soon as you feel that you set the hook, you want to reel it in to the shore, to your boat, and get that fish out of the water. So That's basically what you should know. Oh, as far as the length, I would stick to anything above 7 feet. 7 feet, 7'1", 7'3". I think this is a Shimano Zodius 7'4", medium heavy, fast tip with a 13 fishing. I believe this is the Concept A2 reel in a 7 or 8-to-1. I believe it's an 8-to-1 gear ratio. Great rod right here. As far as your line, there's monofilament, there's fluorocarbon, and then there's braided line. If you are beginning with your fishing journey and you are just starting off, get some fluorocarbon, get 17 pound, 18 pound, even up to the 20 pound line. Looks like this. This is a 16-pound line. Now, if you're fishing super clear water, man, you can go down to a 16-pound line. I typically fish it in an 18 or a 20-pound line. I want to make sure that I don't break off when I set that hook, but get fluorocarbon. Now, if you're a little bit more advanced fisherman and you already done the fluorocarbon, a lot of guys use braid, like this one here. They go braid to a fluorocarbon leader. The benefit of braid is that it is, in my book, easier to cast, one, but it also has more sensitivity at the end. You feel that bite, you feel the subtle bite. You've got a fluorocarbon leader to it, but it's just a little bit more sensitive as far as the bites are concerned. But either one, either your fluorocarbon or your braid to a fluorocarbon leader, this requires you to tie a leader to it, either with an FG knot or a uni knot. It's a little bit more advanced, but if you're beginning, stick to a fluorocarbon, stick to 18 pound, 17 pound, even 20 pound line, and you'll do just fine. Guys, I'm going to leave you with a bit of history on the Texas rig. Did you guys know that the first plastic worm was invented in 1949 by a gentleman by the name of Nick Cream? And I think you've heard of cream plastics or cream worms. I remember as a kid seeing them at the store, but this dude invented the first plastic worm in 1949, but it wasn't used as a Texas rig till this one guy, obviously in Texas, wanted a weedless presentation and took the Nick Cream worm, or the cream worm, plastic worm, and rigged it Texas rig style. And I believe in 1949 or 1950, that was the beginning of the Texas rig, and the rest is history. Guys, if you liked this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you next time. You guys take care.